Hello, how are you? I hope you're good. Welcome back to another You Recommend something something. This time around it's YA fantasy. We don't go the same places that we used to. Even if you don't read YA primarily, you probably have seen a lot of these titles somewhere. So the way I do the series is I ask over on my Instagram what is the best book in that specific genre you would personally recommend fellow readers to read if they want something within that genre. So in the past I've done the thrillers, adult fantasy, and also wintry reads. I will link the playlist down below if you want to check these out. Again, these are recommendations by you to other readers. It's not my recommendations. Sometimes actually I don't even like that book, but everyone is so subjective, and if a story sounds good to you, it's maybe worth a try. There were so many answers and so many books, and obviously not all of them are gonna make into the video. I have a list of 30 books for you. Just before we get started, I want to thank today's sponsor, which is Function of Beauty. Function of Beauty is a customizable hair care brand. They use clean ingredients as well as being 100% vegan and cruelty-free. They have a very handy hair quiz that you fill in, and then you get your own customizable shampoo and conditioner. These are mine, but funny thing, little did they know that I was already using their products before they even contacted me, so I was really pumped when they did. These were the ones that I was using currently before they sent me their products, and then I used those as well just to test it out. But you can take the quiz easily on their website, and you can put in what your hair type is. I put mine as curly, and the hair structure, mine as super fine, and then the scalp moisture. And then you can select up to 5 hair goals. You can also select it to be silicone free if you prefer. So I selected hydrate, replenish hair, anti-frizz, shine, and curl definition because my hair is curly, and I kind of go 50-50 whether I wear it curly or if I straighten it. Then you can also pick a scent. I actually go for true lavender. Fragrance strength, you can put in your name as well, so it's kind of cool seeing that on your bottle as well. And my personal favorite is the color. Obviously, if you would prefer to have no dye, you can select that. I also have a hair mask, a leave-in treatment, and the hair serum. I also selected to receive a hair serum, which I used right after I washed my hair onto the damp hair. And I also selected for it to protect my hair from heat, because I do heat treat my hair a lot when I straighten it. And I already own the leave-in treatment, and I use it all the time. I personally really enjoy the brand, and I like how my hair feels, and I'm just happy with it. And so if that piques your interest, and if that is something that you can and like to try, you can get 20% off your first order for your first set with the link down below, which I will obviously leave in the description bar. Thank you so much for always being so supportive when I am working with brands, and also thank you again and to Function of Beauty for sponsoring this video. And of course my memory card got full. As I said, I have 30 recommendations from your fellow readers, but I have excluded the most common ones. Throne of Glass and Akotar series, which we have Shadowhunter series, all of them, literally all of them came up. Your Cruel Prince series, or like Folk of the Air, I think, and the whole of the Grishaverse universe as well. They're all very, very beloved, and they all came up so often in this list. I do think that the vast majority of people already know about these, but if not, then you can check these out to learn a little bit more of them, but I'm not gonna dwell on them. Again, in no particular order, but let's start with The Lost Boy. The average rating of 4.21. This is a horror Peter Pan retelling, but it is from Hook's perspective. It sounds like there are a bunch of boys being gathered and promised a happy ever after, but there's actually a lot of mind games and very messed up stuff that's happening in there. So if you want like a very wicked and horrific YA Peter Pan retelling, this apparently is very well loved. Then we have Strange the Dreamer. It has a 4.26 rating on Goodreads, and we follow Laszlo Strange, who is a junior librarian with a big dream, almost an obsession, with this lost city and the fable of the lost city of Weep. And he doesn't really think that anything is gonna come from this dream, but a legendary god slayer comes over with the warriors, and Laszlo gets a very unique opportunity to travel with them and explore said city and find way more than he bargained for. This is also a duology, so not the biggest thing to commit to. If you're looking for something that's not a 10-book series, this could be a good shout. I don't even know if I should really even tell you what I thought of these books if I have read them, but maybe I will, but don't let this like sway you in any way or shape or form. All of these books are somebody's absolute favorites. It's really a moot point if I like them or not personally, but I did love this. I gave it 5 stars. Next we have Spellslinger, and this one has an average rating of 4.03 stars. This is following Kellen, who is about to turn 16, I want to say, and he's about to have his first mage's duel. However, in this world, showing really strong magic is how your place in the society is basically decided. Just one problem, that Kellen doesn't seem to have any magic, which is really unfortunate. And the big line on the back is magic is a con game, because he then tries to do something fishy to avoid complete embarrassment. And I personally gave this a 3-star. Legendborn with a whopping 4.49 average rating. This is a fairly new release, and it's following Bree, who has unfortunately lost her mother and has moved to a residential program for bright high schoolers at UNC Chapel Hill. On her very first day there, she actually witnesses something she was not supposed to, and that was a flying demon who was feeding on human energy. Then someone appeared who is called a Legendborn, people who hunt those creatures, and they tried to wipe her memory so she wouldn't remember any. However, she did retain her memory and actually remembered more than before, and that was more information surrounding her mother's death. Now that she knows there's more to it, she is adamant to get back to them and learn everything. She recruits Nick, a self-exiled Legendborn with his own grudge against the secret society, and they go from there. Then we have Graceling with 4.07. This is an older series but also super beloved. Gracelings are people with special abilities, and our main character is graced with the ability of killing, meaning that from the age of 8 she could have killed most people with her bare hands. Being the king's niece, you'd think she would just live a very easy, privileged life. However, because of her gracing, she has to be basically his assassin. And she discovers and uncovers some information that could, you know, change everything. Ruin all the kingdoms. That is a very specific theme running through most of these books. At 4.10 average rating, we have Wrath and the Dawn, which is actually a retelling of 1001 Nights or 1001 Arabian Nights. So we have Khalid, who is a murderous boy king who every night selects a bride and ruins someone's life forever and just separates families. And upon dawn, he wraps like a silk ribbon around their necks and presumably kills them. One of those days, our main character's best friend is the person that is selected, and upon her demise, our main character is just taken by revenge, and she wants to go there and survive, and not only survive, put an end to it. The oldest book on the list is Sabriel. This was published in 1996. We follow Sabriel, who is attending a magical school, but she's not very good or versed in the magic yet. However, she has to leave and go and enter the old kingdom to find her father, who is now missing. I'm not quite sure if this counts as a classic. It definitely looks older, and it would be interesting to read what YA looked like then. Another one that was mentioned very often was An Ember in the Ashes. This has an average rating of 4.26. Leia is a slave and Elias is a soldier, and neither are free. When Leia's brother is said to be a traitor to the Empire and taken to prison, she then gets involved with people who she thinks could help get him out. But they are asking her to go undercover into this training grounds or like military base where Elias is, and that's where their kind of paths cross. Enter the big YA thing of their collective choices will change the whole future of the Empire. I actually really enjoyed it when I read it, but that was a couple of years ago, and I can't remember if it was a 4 or 5 star. I think it was probably a 4. But I remember really enjoying it. Then we have The Kingdom of Back, and the average rating is 3.72, and if music is your thing, this could be a very good shout. Nannerl is the main character here, and she is unfortunate enough to be born a woman in 18th century Europe. And while she is extremely good at composing music, the best she can kind of hope is to marry well. Music days will be over once that happens. And something happens, someone comes over and makes like from a magical land and makes some sort of offer that she cannot resist that might actually change her faith and make things possible. Girls of Paper and Fire, the average rating is 3.82. This could be a little bit difficult to read because there's 8 girls that are normally taken as concubines by the king, and this year there's 9 in total, which is very unusual, and the 9th girl is our main character. The whole world is separated into caste levels, so we have paper girls, who she is one of, and that is the lowest caste. It's very uncomfortably, obviously, in society said like, oh, it's such an honor to be summoned by the king, when obviously it's very disgusting what he's doing. There is a sapphic romance that happens between a couple of girls that then decide how far they can go for revenge and justice. I think I gave this 3 stars. Raybearer with, again, a super high rating of 4.44. Terasai has always longed to belong somewhere because she was raised with a very absent mother who was just called the lady, I think. Yeah, the lady. So she really longed the family and the sense of belonging. When she's actually sent away to try and get in with the Council of 11 to the king or the prince, she's very excited because that's a promising place to be with, surrounded by people and the same people, and you're finding a place. Just before the lady sends her away, she actually puts kind of like a spell or like a magical suggestion that she has to kill the prince once she gains his trust. She doesn't want to do that, but she doesn't know if she's gonna be strong enough to resist it. A Curse So Dark and Lonely with 4.11 rating. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, however with a little bit of a modern twist. The main girl is set in the modern world and she has a physical disability and is then kidnapped from that world and put into the magical world. And she is really not having any of it until she falls in love first with the land and the people of the land there before anything else. So this is actually a favorite of mine. This is definitely my favorite retelling, I think, but I'm not the biggest on retellings. And this also came up quite a lot in the answers, but I know also there's a lot of people who dislike it, so I feel like there's probably like very mixed opinions of that, but I really like this author's writing style. Next is The Hunger Games, and as this person said, it really holds up. I kind of agree. Like, I do have very fond memories to reading this, even though I was reading that with very, very high fever, so that might have something to do with it. The rating is still very high, 4.32. It's fairly easy to read. I feel like I probably don't have to tell you what it is, but it's basically like a game of survival and society with class system as well. High Key has the subplot of the Eat the Rich, you know? So if that sounds good to you, you might want to check it out if you haven't already. This beauty of the Gilded Ones is at 4.15. It's following the main character named Decca, who is naturally good with intuition, and she's very nervous before her 16th birthday, where they have this blood ceremony where they can check if they can basically be the part of the village family. She was really hoping that her blood will run red, but her blood actually runs golden, and she knows that her faith is worse than death. However, a mysterious woman appears and gives her a choice of either staying and knowing that her, you know, she's not gonna have a good time staying there, or going and leaving with her, joining other people like herself in this girl army. Bone Season with the rating of 3.77. Now this is classed as adult in some countries and then a young adult in others. It's one of those books that is just unclear, but I'm gonna go with young adult. We are in a year 2059 and Paige, the main character, is working in the criminal underworld. And then it said, attacked, drugged and kidnapped, Paige is transported to Oxford, a city kept secret for 200 years, controlled by a powerful otherworldly race. So it has kind of like a little bit sci-fi-ish vibes. I'm not quite sure if that classifies as that. I have some friends who absolutely adore the series. Cemetery Boys at 4.41 rating. And this, you know what? I didn't even write up like my own summary for this. I just took the first line because I thought that it was so hooking. Like I literally put it in my wish list right after making this list. Although I did have my eye on this for a while, so it's not like I really needed a lot of convincing, but still. It says, a trans boy determined to prove his gender to his traditional Latinx family summons a ghost who refuses to leave. And honestly, that is such a good, like... I have so many questions. Especially about the ghost. Another book with a super cool cover, in my opinion, is Gideon the Ninth. This one also has a very high rating at 4.20, and it's a necromancer story. I don't think you get many of those. So if you're into that kind of stuff, this could be a good one for you. And Gideon kind of had enough of her current life, and she packs everything up, and she leaves her family and her life behind. Then we have Harrow, who is the necromancer, and he needs a swordswoman, and Gideon has a sword. And to be honest, from the summary of the book, like the synopsis of the book, I couldn't really grasp what exactly this book is about. Without Gideon's sword, Harrow will fail and the ninth house will die. Of course, some things are better left dead. So the themes really intrigue me. Story-wise, I can't quite like understand what it really is, but it's a clearly a favorite. The Raven Boys at 4.04. This is following Blue, who lives with a family of people who are paranormal and have magical abilities to see ghosts and speak to the dead. She never has though, but she was always helping others and making their connection stronger. So on the day of the dead, she actually sees her first spirit. Well, and that's the spirits going and passing to the other world. However, it's more of a premonition because it's for people who are going to die in the coming year. And she sees Gansey, a boy that she's not met yet, but she will soon. And she actually really dislikes him from the beginning because he just seems like a very pompous rich boy, you know, very unaware of things in his own world. She has like an instant dislike for him, but she also is super drawn to him and his mysterious friends. And soon she's also drawn to his weird obsession with finding ley lines and figuring out this kind of like myth is. To be honest, I almost DNF'd this book, and it was such a weird ride because the first half I really did not vibe with, and then the second half I absolutely loved it. It was like 5-star second half of the book. I have fond memories to this for the series. The 20th on the list is Sorcery of Thorns at 4.1. Our main character, Elizabeth, is raised as foundling in one of the great libraries. This is a library and we know that sorcery is bad. Some of the books are also kind of sorcerous. They're grimoires that whisper to you, and if you engage or if you do anything with them, they could potentially turn into these monsters of leather and ink. In this particular library, there is a sabotage mission that Elizabeth kind of like meddles in by mistake. Is almost pinned for, like the blame is almost pinned on her for releasing this most scary, worst grimoire of them all. So before she is completely ruined, she has to go and try and figure out how to undo the damage that someone has done. A very beloved book, was a total miss for me, but I can see why people love it. There's also a cat that's a demon, you know, and there's a library and grimoires. It sounds amazing. I just didn't enjoy it, but it does sound amazing, and it is very beloved. Cinderella is Dead has a rating of 3.76 and it's a queer Cinderella retelling. This is set in a world where Cinderella is, you know, past now. Every girl has to parade in this ball, and then every guy picks a girl, and if the girl is not picked, they've never heard from. So it's pretty grim and really unfair and just icky in every way. And so the main character actually flees the ball, and she doesn't want to be part of it, and she ends up in this Cinderella mausoleum where she finds the descendant, her stepsister, and then they all come together to undo the system and put it to rest once and for all. At 3.84 rating, we have Truthwitch. It says 2 witches hold the fate of the continent in their hands, though they have a habit of finding trouble. Safi is able to tell truth from the lies, but she has to keep her power a secret because it's very sought out after, and she would be in constant danger. Isolde, whose power is actually a secret to even herself. She doesn't know what it is. I've not read this one, but it sounds like it's very based on a friendship, which sounds interesting, and obviously has witches. A book called When We Were Magic. Average rating is 3.76. The tagline was, keeping your magic a secret is hard, being in love with your best friend is even harder. This is another queer book, and it kind of takes place in a prom, so it's a weird, like, it's a fantasy, but it's kind of set in urban times, I guess. Something goes really awry, and accidentally one of the guys ends up dead. And then the friends are trying to undo all of this and just solve it. And I really like that in the synopsis it said, the first attempt fails and their second attempt fails even harder. And then each of them must find a way to live with their part of the story. I think that's quite interesting because instead of, it sounds like we're maybe getting stuff that comes after the main event, and that's super rare. This one is again one of the books that comes up as an adult or YA, and like no one agrees on what it is. I read it as an adult. In my head it's still an adult, but I know that they changed it to YA afterwards, so it's technically YA, and so here I am putting it into the video because it is one of my absolute favorite books and series. So it's Mistborn. The average rating is 4.44. It's a book about resistance and seeking equality and trying to destroy a broken system, an oppressive system, and it's about a cast of criminals coming together for the biggest and most dangerous heist of their lives, and an orphan who is quite traumatized and lost and finding a family. I really love it. I think it has one of the best endings to the trilogy for the first era, and would highly recommend, as well as obviously other people would highly recommend as well. Scythe. average rating is 4.32, and this is a world with no hunger, no disease, no misery. Everything is perfect, apart from that people still need to die in order to maintain a reasonable population, and someone has to be the killer, and the killers are called Scythes. It's obviously a very intense job, and so it comes with a lot of perks. It's almost like a very respected Grim Reaper, but it also gives your family immunity from death. So it's a fairly sought out position, and it's hard to get into, and we follow two main characters who have to actually compete for that position. Enjoy this first one enough, and then I love the second one, and then I DNF the third one, so I think it's fair to say that my feelings regarding this series is just complicated. Spin the Dawn with an average rating of 4.03 is, I think, perfect if you love the trope of going undercover and pretending to be someone else, as Maya does the exact same thing when a letter summoning her father who is ill for competing for this very prestigious tailor's position comes to her house, and then she decides to go for it instead. It's her lifelong dream to become a tailor, but because she's a woman, again, the best she can hope for is to marry well, similarly to like Kingdom of Back. So she competes with other 12 tailors for a royal spot, and then she has to sew 3 magic gowns for the emperor's reluctant bride-to-be from Laughter of the Sun, the Tears of the Moon, and the Blood of the Stars. 4.13 is the average rating for the Lunar Chronicles. The first book is Cinder. This is a sci-fi. It's a world where humans are mixed in with the androids, and it's all set in Beijing. From outer space, really ruthless lunar people are kind of constantly keeping an eye on Earth, and they're waiting to make their move. And no one knows, but the Earth fate hangs on one girl, Cinder, who is a gifted mechanic and also a cyborg. Another relatively new one that already made a spot as a favorite is These Violent Delights. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but set in 1920s Shanghai. And we have a blood feud between two families and obviously a tragic love story. And the average rating for that is a 4. Ace of Shades, 3.89. It's all about the events that take place in the city of Sin. Now, our main character, however, is Annie, who is a proper lady. She goes into a finishing school, and she would never dream to go into the city of sins because that is so unladylike. However, her mother goes missing, and she feels like she needs to investigate this. She doesn't have anything, and she's very afraid of going and very intimidated of the city. And all she has is one clue, and that is the name Levi Glacier. Unfortunately, he does not seem to be a gentleman she was hoping for, and he is a con man. But they do have to solve this together for different benefits, I'm assuming. And their search of clues leads them through glamorous casinos, illicit cabarets, and into the clutches of a ruthless mafia donna. And the last book I almost didn't include because it made another list, the winter rereads, but it honestly came up so much, more than I expected it to, because I feel like not a lot of people talked about it just a year ago, even though this is not a new release, but that's A Winter's Promise, a book I'm really anticipating because it sounds amazing. The average rating is 4.15, and it's about this world that was scattered and like shattered actually in these arcs that are floating cities. The character Ophelia lives on Anima, and she hides the ability of being able to read and communicate with object souls and also travel through mirrors. And she was just living her life until someone decided that she actually needs to be forced into this marriage that comes like as a surprise to her, and she doesn't really understand why her. Unbeknownst to her, basically, she is being made a pawn in somebody else's plot. And that, my friends, concludes this very long list. If you made it till the end of this video, let me know by leaving an emoji of a flower, because the weather is really spring-like today, and I'm clearly inside and not taking advantage of that, so just leave me a lot of flowers so I can feel the spring energy either way. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found something you would like to check out. Let me know if you did, and if you're going to try to read something off the list, let me know what that is. If you have another thing you would like to suggest, feel free. As I said, not everything made the list, but that's what the comments are for. If you did suggest something and it made the list, thank you for that suggestion. I hope you guys are well, stay awesome, stay kind, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! I ain't never